one can handle this stuff except like Donald Trump or something, because I can't imagine if all y'all just start talking crazy about me. You know, he looks like what's that actor from the Iron Man? I don't know his name. But he looks like that one other Iron Man guy, you know? You guys, this whole Billy Carson and Wes Huff debacle is getting kind of crazy. So you remember Billy Carson? He's the guy that we talked about previously. He aims to disprove Christianity and how it's just kind of a copy of these other creation stories, all kind of hodgepodge together. I was listening to the debate. I went ahead and finished it. At first, I wasn't gonna, I took the "What do you memes" take on it, and I said, let me go ahead and just listen to the whole thing. And I'm glad I did. Wes Huff is amazing. He's amazing. Nick actually encouraged me to watch the whole thing, so I shout out to Nick for doing that. He really made me learn some stuff. But it looks like the plot's kind of thickening, you guys, because this dude is like, so he responded, but then I guess he's kind of having a meltdown. So I didn't look. So again, I'm looking at the source later after the fact, or I'm gonna do that with this case. But we're going to watch this "What do you meme" guy again, and we're gonna take a look at what he has to say, because he's letting us know that things are kind of escalating. He posted this video about 2 hours ago. Go subscribe to him, by the way. But I love people that can just kind of summarize things for me. When it comes to like, not biblical stuff, because I don't like when people summarize stuff for me biblically, but when it comes to like news, I need the summary. I need the summary of what's going on. So yeah, let's take a listen to see what this guy has to say. What do you mean?
Billy Carson recently hosted a 3.5-hour live stream to address his poor debate performance against Wes Huff. But instead of him redeeming himself, it became one of the most painful, self-inflicted disasters that I've ever seen. His own fans turned on him in the comments as he spiraled, made excuses, unveiled plans to silence Christian creators, and revealed how he really feels about Christianity.
What is a sadistic narcissist? Let's take a look at some of the traits and see if we can compare them to this quote-unquote God or the Bible.
As well as poor people who work a 9 to 5.
I let a lot of it slip because a lot of these people are just ignorant poor people. They're just poor people. I'm not a Joe Schmo 9 to 5 worker bee.
So honestly, this one was an absolute mess, but you don't have to sit through all 3.5 hours. I've broken down the most important moments covering.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you that I don't have to sit through these 3.5 hours. Oh man, he's kind of like losing it. Oh man. See, this is where you guys got, money can't be your idol, man. Like, man, I feel bad for him. You guys. He's spiraling. I think he knows his money's gonna deplete. This might be an opportunity though, great joy. Like, this might be an opportunity, like, you know what? Sometimes guys gotta take you down to rock bottom so he can pull you out the mud,
The fallout, the debate response, and the meltdown. So let's dive in, because this is going to be an eye-opening reveal about the real Billy Carson. So Billy's livestream was supposed to expose the fake debate that he recently took part in, but quickly spiraled into disaster. He started by announcing lawsuits against everyone involved: the host, the opponent, and even the editor. But it wasn't long before his fans started turning on him in droves. They were furious that he wouldn't admit to an obvious loss. I had to unsubscribe. It's one thing to be a sore loser, but to not admit defeat means you cannot learn or grow due to no lesson being received. Billy brother, I really want to see you win, but you're fighting against your own message right now. I hope you can recover from this, but you have to look in the mirror because this behavior is unacceptable. Really? Billy, you should be 100% honest when you discuss what happened. You are not building credibility, and I am a fan of yours. I used to like this guy, but literally 5 minutes into this video, I was done with him. But for some fans, the frustration went even deeper. Several other commenters pointed out something even more troubling about Billy's response. You should take this video down. Most of your fans are poor people. The poor people are the ones who made you powerful. So, what did Billy say on his live stream that drove his fans to say this? Well, it started with Billy unnecessarily and continuously humble bragging about how much money that he has in a way that felt tone deaf and out of touch with his audience.
We have 5 AC units, and I don't even know which one of them is acting up. I normally take the elevator upstairs. You know, I've had a chef for 10 years, and they like the food from coming over and eating the food at our.
Why is he even talking about that? This is supposed to be his like response video, I'm assuming. Why are you talking about how much money you got and how many ACs you got? It's crazy. He's got an elevator in his house. So does that mean what does that mean? I think he's like, oh well, I'm cool. I didn't lose any money probably. Like I don't
Our house, and now they share our chef. You know, we are hopping off of a private jet. We relaxed in a huge 8,500 square foot mansion with our best friends on a tiny private island. I'm actually sleeping in my movie theater in my house. I have a movie theater. I'm sleeping in the movie theater.
But what really set fans off was his blatant mockery about those who he deemed poor, especially 9-to-5 workers.
This is what they try to do when you get famous. You see? I let a lot of it slip because a lot of these people are just ignorant, poor people. You know, they're just poor people. They're just ignorant. So I let a lot of it, whatever, man. These people are just poor dummies.
Oh my gosh, he's crashing out, you guys. He's crashing out. What when you exercise a demon out of someone and they start manifesting? I'm not saying this guy, well, actually he might have a spirit of deception, but it's the manifestation is kind of starting. It's oh man. I know I probably shouldn't feel bad, but I do feel bad because he's still a person and he's still like pain is still pain, regardless of anyone. But sometimes it takes pain for God to redeem you. You know what I mean? It takes pain. I remember when we'll get back to this real quick, but I was talking to my boy about it. I was like, man, you remember when King David took a census and showed his pride and his ego and lack of humility, and God was mad about that, and he had to punish him, and he actually let King David pick what punishment he wants to choose. I'm actually gonna pull that up. We'll keep listening, but I'll pull that up. We can talk about it later.
You know, what can you do? I make more money than rappers. I'm not a Joe Schmo 9-to-5 worker bee. You thought I was just some dumb black guy that just happened to get a little lucky with a couple of clips online and gain some popularity. Like Kendrick Lamar say, they not like us. They not like us.
Now, first off, you can't quote Kendrick while you're acting like Drake. And secondly, now this earlier comment suddenly makes more sense. But if obliviously mocking his fans wasn't...
He said you can't quote Kendrick acting like Drake, because I heard Drake is not trying to sue Kendrick, and now Billy Carson is trying to sue West Huff. That was actually pretty smooth. What do you mean?
About enough, Billy took things to another level when he admitted this.
The money that you thought you were making and the popularity you thought you were making is all going to be spent on attorney's fees. And I don't care if I win or lose. I just want you to spend money.
Now, if you aren't aware, what he just admitted to was filing what's called slap lawsuits, which are designed to silence critics and burden the defendant with legal costs until they abandon their criticism. And he even went so far as to say that he's gonna sue the host of the podcast for
$1 million and possibly even more.
Now, not only does admitting this ruin the little bit of chances that he had at winning the lawsuit, but it also opens him up to counter lawsuits. And unsurprisingly, fans and critics alike saw this as a massive overreaction to a debate being published. But as we'll see next, Billy's excuses and evidence for his debate performance didn't just fail to clear his name, they made things far worse, with some even calling him a fraud. And speaking of fraud, before we get into that, did you know that American homeowners nationwide have over $32 trillion in equity? And cybercriminals are targeting it with a growing scam that FBI calls house stealing. House alarms, doorbell cameras, and deadbolts won't work against these thieves because they're not after your stuff. Instead, they're after your equity. If your title isn't being monitored, scammers can transfer the title of your...
No, it looks like he's doing like an advertisement, I think.
So we left off with some people considering Billy to be a fraud. This all stemmed from his poor performance in a recent debate, which anyone that was familiar with Wes and Billy's work knew exactly how it was gonna go.
Billy Carson, that dude, sat down with Wes Huff.
Bro,
it was a slaughter.
Yeah,
And given the fact that they were right, Billy tried to excuse his performance with some, Let's just call them questionable arguments. The first explanation he gave was that he was incredibly sick, claiming that he nearly died of pneumonia days before the debate. And he showed proof of this by showing this band-aid on his arm.
And being in that weakened state, which he knew he caught me at one of my most weakest states. He saw how I only weighed 206 pounds. And again, I was so sick and ill, to be quite honest with you. Maybe I did bumble my words a couple times with the Sinai Bible or the Barnabas text. It's quite possible. I thought we were having a casual conversation on spirituality, and I wasn't really even fully in my right mind.
You know, it's crazy. So why did you take the debate then? Why did you go through with it? Why don't you just reschedule? Hey man, I'm not feeling good. I'm super sick. That's the risk you take. You can't. That's the risk you take, man.
Just almost died a few days before going to his house, literally. And so he took advantage of that.
Now, to be clear, I don't have any strong reason to doubt that he was sick and was actually in the hospital days before the debate. And by the way, I'm glad that he didn't die and he's better now. But if this illness really did cause him to get things wrong, then what's his excuse for saying the exact same things on podcasts before the debate?
Never got crucified. As a matter of fact, the Sinai Bible, Jesus was crucified. Well, that doesn't exist in the Sinai Bible. The Sinai Bible. But then you go to the Sinai Bible. In the Sinai Bible. And the Sinai Bible. According to the Sinai Bible, Jesus wasn't crucified in that Bible.
And how was he able, on the night of the debate, to go to the host's house at 2:30 in the morning while the host's wife and kids were sleeping? And immediately after the host didn't answer, he had enough energy to do this.
I come back to the house. I'm extremely angry and I'm extremely frustrated that I wasn't able to contact him. His phone was in do not disturb mode. So I tried to call first. I tried to call him like 4 or 5 times, evidenced in my phone records. I texted him 5 or 6 times. I also texted him a copy of my do not consent, and I WhatsApped him a copy of my do not consent form at the same time.
But even worse, he says that he's now...
I'm not the same almost half dead person that you tried to talk to a few weeks ago. I've gotten my clear mind back. My brain fog is gone. My body weight's coming back. I'm lifting and working out every single day. I'm getting stronger by the second. I'm not that weak, sick person that just almost died. It was in the hospital. Coming on a show on a video feed with a IV bandage on, literally fresh off the IV tree, the big tree with all the different IV bags and all the antibiotics and everything else dripping into my body. Fresh off the bag. I'm in the studio. Out of boredom, really. But
bro, I really don't like when people just make a bunch of excuses, man. Let's not make a bunch of excuses. You lost, just say my bad. Pride. Let me read this about King David with pride that kind of rose up. But wouldn't that be crazy if someone just showed up at your house, you guys, at wee hours in the morning? I'd be ready to like, what are you doing here? Like that's kind of seems like a show of aggression. You text me multiple times, you WhatsApp me a picture, and you call me multiple times, and then you show up to my house while I'm with my family. How do you know where I live? First of all, it's pride. First Chronicles chapter 21. I want to read this because I think this is gonna be a good reminder. Satan rose up against Israel. Real quick, this is actually a trivia question. Who incited King David to take a census? It was Satan. I do trivia every Friday at 8 p.m. on TikTok. Follow me on there if you're interested. You can win $50. So David said to Joab and the commanders of the troops, "Go and count the Israelites from Beersheba to Dan, then report back to me so that I may know how many there are." But Joab replied, "May the Lord multiply his troops 100 times over. My lord the king, are they not all the Lord's subjects? Why does my lord want to do this? Why should he bring guilt on Israel?" So they know this is a pride issue. The king's word, however, overruled Joab. He said, "No, do what I told you." So Joab left and went throughout Israel and then came back to Jerusalem. Joab reported the number of the fighting men to David. In all Israel, there were 1,100,000 men who could handle a sword, including 400,000 and 70,000 in Judah. That's a lot of people. That's a lot. He's like, yeah, look at all these followers I got. Look at this strength that I have, that I've accumulated, as if it doesn't belong to God. But Joab did not include Levi and Benjamin in the numbering. The Levites were, I'm not sure why he didn't include Benjamin, but Levites were the priests, so they weren't supposed to do that. They were just caused to tend to the tabernacle, do their priestly duties, because the king's command was repulsive to him. Oh, okay. Continue to read verse 7. This command was also evil in the sight of God, so he punished Israel. So King David was this representative of Israel because of the representative of the whole nation. Because of his sins, God took it out on the whole nation of Israel. But it doesn't stop there. David said to God, I have sinned greatly by doing this. Now I beg you, take away the guilt of your servant. I have done a very foolish thing. The Lord said to Gad, David's seer, go and tell David, this is what the Lord says. It's interesting. He won't even talk to David. And King David and God talked, but then he's talked to Gad, which was the seer. Said, go tell David, this is what the Lord says. I am giving you 3 options. Oh, I thought it was 2 options. Choose one of them for me to carry out against you. You remember when you're, I don't know, maybe just my parents were like, okay, what do you want to do? You want to go to timeout or you want to get a whooping? But if you go to timeout, or you might lose your time playing on the Xbox or whatever, or you want a spanking or whatever it is, the discipline, you get to choose. It's hard. It's like a rock in a hard place, you know? So Gad went to David and said to him, this is what the Lord says. Take your choice, 3 years of famine, 3 months of being swept away before your enemies with the swords overtaking you, or 3 days of the sword of the Lord, days of plague in the land, with the angel of the Lord ravaging every part of Israel. Now then, decide how I should answer the one who sent me. David said to Gad, I am in deep distress. Let me fall into the hands of the Lord, for his mercy is very great, but do not let me fall into human hands. So the Lord sent a plague on Israel, and 70,000 men of Israel fell dead. And God sent an angel to destroy Jerusalem. But as the angel was doing so, the Lord saw it and relented concerning the disaster, and said to the angel who was destroying the people, enough, withdraw your hand. The angel of the Lord was then standing at the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite. We can continue to read, but I think this is where I want to scroll down to where David builds an altar. It's actually really beautiful, where he goes and he offers a sacrifice, or he wants to go offer a sacrifice. But I believe it's this verse here. Yeah, he goes to a guy named Araunah who's trying to get some equipment for get oxen and burnt offerings. But King David and Araunah was like, no, you're the king. You can just take it freely. But he said, no, I insist on paying full price. I will not take for the Lord what is yours, or sacrifice a burnt offering that costs me nothing. He's like, no, I need to feel this pain. I need to go through this suffering. This dude, Billy Carson, you got to just go through it. I don't know if you guys ever been through a breakup or anything, but sometimes you just got to go through it. You got to just feel it because it's good for you. Let's continue to listen. I hope you guys didn't get too sidetracked, but you got to get some Bible in you. Let's get some Bible in us, you know?
But brain fog, tired, exhausted, can't breathe. I only got about 2 more weeks of recovery left from this pneumonia, and I'll be full strength.
Now, if that's true, then why not debate again? Wes even offered to take the video down if Billy agreed to another debate.
Billy, I will agree to all the terms and conditions of the cease and desist letter if you agree to run it back, sit down with me in person, and have another discussion.
But it seems that Billy doesn't want to take that chance. Billy's second excuse for his poor performance was that he was ambushed. The only problem is he admitted to willingly doing the debate.
And then Mark gets this guy on the live feed, and he says, hey, we're going to have a little debate. I'm like, a debate? He's like, yeah, we're gonna talk about this, your perspective of religion and stuff and so on, whatever. And I'm like, huh? I'm like, okay, whatever.
So not only did Billy once again mess up his lawsuit by admitting this, but anyone who watched the debate could see that it clearly was not an ambush. It was one-on-one, with the moderator even siding with Billy at times. His third excuse for a bad debate performance was that Mark and Wes conspired to mess up the feed whenever he had something important to say.
And then what they did was, they're pretty slick. So every time I had something really important to say or a deep question to ask, defendant number 2 video would just magically disconnect. Boop, he's off again. Oh man, he's off again. I don't know what happened. The first time it happened, I was like, that's strange, because it didn't happen when he was talking, and his video was very clear and crisp, like almost 4K.
But this doesn't really add up. The footage only shows Wes's internet freezing, and no one can even manipulate a live feed like that. This excuse only works for people who haven't watched the full unedited footage of the debate, which you can find on Wes's channel and is also linked down below. His next excuse was that no one let him talk.
I might have bumbled the Barnabas text for the Sinai text or whatever. It doesn't really matter.
You guys, that's a straight up lie. If you watch this whole thing, they let him talk. That's actually pretty shocking. They let him talk. And then when he would get rebutted, uh, he'll get rebutted. Then he'll just try to change the topic. And then Wes is like, well, hold on, let me actually address this real quick. They let him talk.
What matters is I never got a chance to answer any questions or get my voice heard. That's what really matters. But now I'm trying to ask my question. I'm getting overridden with other texts, other words from defendant number one. He's overriding what I'm trying to say, everything I've got to ask. He's talking over me. I'm the person that's supposed to be in this debate. I can't even get a word in. And as soon as I say one thing, the other guy, defendant number two, he's overriding and talking over me. I'm just sitting there patiently, just quiet. So I saw Dan at.
I wonder. You see, he's saying defendant number 1 and 2. Are those like legal terms? Like he's taking you to court, and you're defendant number 1 and defendant number 2.
That moment, I realized, oh, this is a contrived setup video to make me look like I'm some type of dummy and I don't know what I'm talking about. So they can go bragging to all their Christian buddies and friends in their cult and, oh, he didn't know the answer to these 2 questions. Not really.
But anyone who's seen the debate knows that this just isn't true. He had plenty of time to speak. Important times for him to make his case, he still only managed responses like these.
Referring to the Gospel of Barnabas as anything other than.
If you say it's an forgery and expert, I'm going to go with that. Let's talk about the Old Testament a little bit. That's fair enough. I can respect that. So let's go into the Old Testament a little bit.
And even in my last video of him, I have a clip of him talking for almost 4 minutes straight, uninterrupted. And finally, Billy implied that AI or deepfake technology was used to manipulate the footage.
This is a video of me speaking in Korean.
안녕하세요, 여러분. 저는 빌리 카슨입니다. 포비든 노랫개로도 알려.
Very easy to do, especially when you're editing.
But that was a deepfake that Billy made. There's literally no evidence to suggest that anyone besides Billy created a deepfake of Billy. And even worse, Billy tried to obtain the footage the same night, long before he could have ever known about any supposed manipulation. So now that you've heard these excuses, you can ask yourself, if Billy truly believed these excuses, you would think that he would take the chance to prove everyone wrong now that he's recovered, right? Well, unfortunately, after excusing his debate performance, he attempted to justify his claims with new evidence, and here's where things got even worse. So about an hour into the stream, he finally started to address the claims that he made in the debate for why he believes that Jesus wasn't crucified. And if you recall, the first piece of evidence was that the Sinai Bible didn't mention that Jesus was crucified. But when Wes literally pulled the text off of his shelf to show Billy otherwise, Billy backtracked, claiming that he'd misspoken and was referring to the Gospel of Barnabas. And that made it all the more strange to see during his live stream him try to justify his original claim about the Sinai Bible.
Or that in the Sinai Bible, it appeared that Jesus had never been crucified. I said it's quite possible that Jesus was never crucified. Not once anywhere does say Jesus was never crucified. It says quite possible that Jesus was never crucified, or he might not have been crucified, depending on what podcast I was on.
So not once, not anywhere did he ever say that Jesus.
He literally says it in all the podcasts that he comes on. That's like his bread and butter, it seems. In this Sinai Bible, Jesus wasn't crucified.
Jesus was never crucified, right? Well, out of Billy's own mouth.
Never got crucified. Jesus was crucified. Well, that doesn't exist in the Sinai Bible. According to the Sinai Bible, Jesus wasn't crucified in that Bible.
And again, what makes it so strange is that if he really did misspeak during the debate by referring to the Sinai Bible,
I misquoted there. It's the Gospel of Barnabas.
Then why was he trying to defend it during his live stream by putting up this image on his screen in defense of that initial claim? And by looking at this, I'm glad to see that he's done more homework, but the only problem is none of the points on this sheet change the fact that Codex Sinaiticus includes Jesus' crucifixion in nearly every New Testament book. Even his point about the shorter ending of Mark doesn't help, since Mark still includes the crucifixion. So none of this refutes or really even addresses a single fact that Wes gave. But even more wild was the evidence that he gave in support of his claim that Jesus had a wife. In order to argue for the legitimacy of this known forgery that allegedly claims that Jesus had a wife, Billy used this clip right here as evidence.
What really matters is the kind of scientific testing that's been done and that kind of work.
So this scrap is tiny.
It goes on to talk about how much scientific testing has been done. She really believes, and she's gone on dozens of interviews about this, that this thing was real. Now,
but this video that he's using is this one right here, and it was made back in 2014 before the fragment was universally acknowledged as a forgery. And even worse, the lady in the clip, Karen King, who popularized the fragment, she even admitted that it was likely a forgery 2 years after the clips that he showed, once she found out that the text was.
You guys, this what do you mean dude is well researched. Oh man.
copied from the internet. She even said that the guy who gave her the fragment obviously lied. But to his credit, Billy does seem to acknowledge this fact to some degree, but then says that maybe she crumbled due to a Christian conspiracy, which he doesn't have the slightest bit of evidence for, nor does it explain why non-Christian scholars who studied it, like Mark Goodacre, came to the same conclusion while providing piles of evidence in support of that conclusion. And once again, the sheet that Billy put up on the screen literally does nothing to support his claim or refute anything that West stated during their debate. And yet, Billy even went so far as to say,
I always tell you guys in all the podcasts that I'm in, don't believe what I say, research what I say. Everyone's entitled to gain or find their own opinion.
But the last time that happened, he claimed that he was ambushed and threatened to sue everyone. The Bible says that the one who states his case first seems right until the other comes and examines him. And as soon as anyone genuinely takes the time to examine Billy's claims about Christianity, then it all comes crashing down for him. And to make everything worse, he didn't have hardly any sources on any of the sheets for people to verify. And when one of his fans asked him to provide a source, he responded with insults.
You can tell this was written for me. No, I'm taking this from the source, Mr. Whoever you are in the live chat. Of course, this is cut and pasted from the direct source, from actual academic books. I'm not giving you this off my dome. I'm reading academic books. Come on now, tune in, get your head on right. This is basic IQ stuff.
But conveniently, he didn't give the names of those academic books, so he still didn't provide any sources. And it's at this point that we can start to see Billy unravel more and more, which leads to his diatribes against God, the Bible, and Christianity. And it's here we start to see the real Billy Carson. So as the live stream went on, Billy began to show more and more hostility towards Christians. He started by calling the God of the Bible a sadistic narcissist.
What is a sadistic narcissist? Let's take a look at some of the traits and see if we can compare them to this quote unquote God of the Bible. If your God of the Bible is so powerful, why does he need to kill everybody and have all these wars? You're all knowing, all powerful, all omnipotent, yet you can't stop one brother from killing the other one. Till this very day.
Next, he turned his attention to biblical figures like Abraham, mocking his faith and his character.
Now, the fact that this man was willing to do this shows me how ignorant he was. You see, that's the difference between me and this guy.
Can you guys feel this unclean spirit that's coming off of this dude? Just so much pride, so much just hate for God, and it seems unwarranted. If you're wrong, you're wrong. But now you're going to insult and he needs peace. He needs freedom.
Now, they will preach to you all this stuff about him being this great holy man because he proved himself to God. No, he proved himself to be a doggone idiot, is what he proved himself to be.
He proved himself to be the father of faith because he trusted God. And God didn't just do all this stuff. There's free will. Do you see how there's no accountability? There's free will that happens in the world.
And finally, Billy attacked Christians themselves, accusing them of being easily manipulated.
You've been heavily manipulated to the point where you don't even know who the hell you are. It's really scary that there's that many NPCs walking around on this.
Oh, you said NPCs. You're an NPC, you guys. We're not heavily manipulated. We're actually very rational thinkers. We know that if Jesus has not been crucified, then we're the most to be pitied. That's what the scripture says. But no, we know he's been crucified. It's validated information. I seen it with my own eyes, is what the eyewitnesses would say. Not only that, check out that Wes Huff. He is very knowledgeable. He's very knowledgeable, and he quotes actual literal sources proving the deity of Christ. That's what the main thing I pulled out from this that full debate, the 2-hour long debate. It was amazing. It just confirmed things that I've always read and thought, but couldn't find the script, or I couldn't find the scriptures. I found it in the scriptures, but couldn't find the resources to support what I thought. And he had the resources. It's amazing.
Planet. Drones. You people are drones, man. No empathy. I gave you the definition of that earlier. Sadistic narcissism. Lack of empathy. Controlling. Quick to anger. Jealous, envious. I am a jealous God. Didn't he say that? Some of you will, some of you won't. Some of you will still be stuck in believing the current ideology and dogma that you've been fed. How come I can see that and understand that, but you guys can't? And you're wrapped up in the actual religion itself.
And ironically, he also said this about the church.
The church itself obfuscates or suppresses information or changes things or forces things to not be released.
But this is ironic because this is exactly what he is trying to do with these slap lawsuits. So if it's wrong for the church to suppress information and not have it released, then why is he giving everything that he has to doing exactly that? He also goes on to talk about how God condones slavery, sexual slavery, and genocide, all of which I've covered in detail in a playlist link below. But Billy doesn't just stop there. He spent at least a third of his stream glorifying himself, talking like the main character in an action film.
You're trying to put together a global network for one man? That's how scared you are of me? You guys are horrified of Billy Carson, aren't you? You're horrified. We got to end this guy. He's too big. You can't take down a self-made man. They have.
Bro, you're like horrified of this Huff dude and everyone else is coming out against you. You know what he looks like? He looks like what's that actor from the Iron Man? I don't know his name. But he looks like that one other Iron Man guy, you know?
Have to network with hundreds of thousands of people all over the world to supposedly end Billy Carson's career. Not only are they not ending my career, they're making me more famous because they call my name out every 5 minutes. I'm on their tongue and their lips every minute of the day. When they go to sleep, they dream about me. When they wake up, the first thing they do before they kiss their wife or their boyfriend, they talk about me. They post me and call my name 24 hours a day, nonstop. They're absolutely infatuated with me. And nobody puts out more volume of videos and content than I do. Not nobody in the world. Not one single person. Oh, I got all the information. You think you have a big organization. What you don't know is you don't have as big an organization as you think. You got a lot of followers, which are just sheep. But I have people everywhere on the planet. I touch a percentage of the planet every day. Me, one man. One man. I touch a percentage of the planet. You guys haven't even come close to that. The RCMP, the BPD, the CAFC. Fortunately, I have fans in those places. You just never know when you're poking a real bear. So I want to thank these gangbangers for creating all this controversy and all this energy and stirring it up and then sending it to me because I'm taking it. I appreciate it. I really appreciate it.
And he consistently bragged about his connections to powerful people, threatening lawsuits and implying an untouchable status.
You think your cult is so huge and so massive. I've got people in every area of politics. And yes, I still call them polytricksers, but I've got people in politics. I've got people in three-letter agencies. They come on tour with me. I've got people in government. I've got people in countries, powerful people that support. I've got billionaires. I've got billionaires' numbers on my cell phone. Billionaires that I can just call right now and have a casual.
So what? That's the world, you guys. That's the world. But that's the world, to be cool, to be widely connected and be so powerful. And it's so like corny in a way, but then it's funny how we're perceived to be corny and sheep and followers. Because it's like, it's money. We're not worried about that. Billionaires, who cares about that? We have eternal life. We have riches in heaven. And we have access to the everlasting, eternal God. Peace is way more valuable than money, you guys. Always remember that.
Conversations with. I hang out with them. We've got voice recordings of conversations that you guys have been putting out there. See, you don't know who's on the other end of that phone that supports us. You think they're supporting you. You never know when you're going to poke a bear. But the original video that I did not consent to, I'll be paid my pound of flesh for every appearance that it shows up on the entire internet. I will be. Trust me on this. Or there'll be judgments. And when you go to buy a house or when you go to sell something, when you go to do anything, I'll have to get paid first. And I'm going to take all that money, all those winnings, and I'm going to buy a huge strip of land. Me and my wife already figured it out today. We're going to buy a huge strip of land and we're going to build mini homes on there for homeless people with all the money.
All right, now, while his bravado might seem entertaining, it comes across as incredibly insecure and nothing more than a desperate attempt to recover from a poor debate performance. But I will say this, in fairness to Billy, getting tons of hate online isn't easy for anyone to deal with. Very few people are equipped to handle that level of criticism, and it's clear that he feels betrayed, especially by friends who once shared his same.
Exactly. That's why it's so sad. Like, no one can handle this stuff except like Donald Trump or something. Because I can't imagine if all y'all just start talking crazy about me, and I'm like, oh man, I really just, oh, I thought it was cool. Oh man.
same views, but recently converted to Christianity. Now, this context doesn't excuse his behavior, but it might help to explain it. So Billy seems to be going through a lot right now, and let's pray for Billy that this moment would lead him closer to the truth rather than running further away from it. If he does, I'm confident that the facts will show him that Jesus really is who he said he is. Not a person who embodied Christ consciousness, but instead the creator of the universe in human flesh who came down from heaven to solve a problem that no one else could solve: our broken relationship with God. So all in all, Billy's entire live stream was a really bad look for him. And if you look at the comments on his video, unless he deleted a lot, the absolute vast majority of them are negative towards Billy. And I wasn't even able to get to all of the problems that he had in this video. Much more could be said, but this video has gone on too.
Man, thank you. What do you mean for putting that together? Yeah, okay. So Billy, one thing about him, he talks about this
long
God
as it is.
consciousness,
So let me
God consciousness a lot, right? And Christ consciousness, and like returning to this Christ consciousness. What's interesting is that, oh, excuse me, things kind of making weird noises. What's interesting is like, why do you that doesn't make sense. If Christ isn't real, or this idea of God and the Christian God is not real, why are you still using the terms like Christ consciousness, or the return? Like when Jesus comes back, he just says the return of the Christ consciousness. That it's like, if this isn't true, why is that even in the conversation? You know, man. Oh man, I can't imagine. He's crashing out. But like he said, like, what do you mean? I don't know his name. We'll say his name's Eric. Actually, I don't want to say Eric. I don't know his name. We got to pray for this dude. We really got to pray for this dude, because he is a brother. He's made in the image of God. He's not our enemy. And if he is our enemy, if you want to say he's our enemy, what does Jesus tell us to do with our enemies? Tell us to pray for our enemies, to love our enemies. You know, it's easy for someone that's in the same clique, or in the same group, or in the same group think, to love each other. You know, even wicked people do that. You know, that's what the Bible says. It's hard to love your enemies. So we need to extend love and empathy for him, and welcome him with the truth. I love one thing about the theme, actually, about Wes Huff, is he handled himself in love and in truth throughout that debate. I'll link the full debate in the description, and also show you guys the original video of this "What Do You Mean" guy that we just watched. But it's not, man, it's not good. It's not good. I just hope, man, if I ever like get a bigger platform by the grace of God, and able to do this like full time, that I would be able to also endure what potentially could happen, which is a lot of pushback and a lot of self self doubt at times, you know, because people coming at you. But if you're leaning on the truth, you can always stand on what you say. You know, if you're leaning on truth, you can always stand on what you say. And I think that's why he's scrambling, because he ain't leaning on the truth. So you can't stand on what you said. Pray for him. Love you guys. Yeah. Let me know what you think in the comments, actually. I'm curious what you guys think. Love you.